So last week we colored in the red, yellow, and blue, which are our primary colors. This week we are coloring in our secondary colors. However, some of you might have started the secondary colors last week, and that is fine. But just a reminder, when coloring, if you have the Crayola markers, use the side of the marker. As you see, I can get a nice bold line from that thick side. Okay, it's nice and thick, so use that when you can to get bold lines. It'll color in faster and more solid by doing that. And I hold my marker a little funny. It just helps me hold it. So again, we should have primary and secondary colors. We will have this whole thing colored in by the end of class today, and we will be adding something on top of it. Okay, so I will be speeding up the video momentarily of me coloring in all my blocks, and then you'll see me do something kind of strange, and I'll explain that when we get there. Coloring in my orange, coloring in my purple. So orange, green, and purple are the secondary colors. And now I have 2 extra boxes, so I can color them in whatever colors I want. I grabbed this light kind of teal color, but it kind of looks like my green, and I was a little disappointed by that, so I grabbed a yellow to color on top of it to try to make it a little different color. Didn't really turn out how I wanted it, but that's okay, because you know what, we're going to be drawing on top of this anyway, and I have a backup piece that I can work on. So sometimes our mistakes will turn out a little differently, and that's okay. My other bonus color I chose was gray, but here's my other piece of paper. So I'm finishing up my secondary color on that, and I already have my 2 bonus colors. I used brown and gray on that one. So I have primaries, red, yellow, blue, and secondaries, orange, green, and purple. So I'm going to work on the piece that has the brown and gray as my bonus colors, because I like that a little bit more with the brown and gray on it. And I have my oil pastels, and this is going to work better if you have oil pastels. If you have crayons, it'll work, but it won't go on as thick, and it won't show up as well as an oil pastel, because an oil pastel is it's oily, so it sits on top of the paper quite nicely and almost like paint. So I'm going to be inspired by Kandinsky here and creating concentric shapes, and my pastel broke, so I just grabbed the chunk that broke off to draw with. And so a concentric shape is when you have one shape nested inside another shape inside the shape, and it's usually the same shape. So here it's rectangle inside of rectangle inside of rectangle inside of rectangle. So it could be that your shape is growing in size, or it's diminishing, getting smaller in size. So rectangle, 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 until I have no more space and it is just a line. So now I'm going to speed it up, and I'm going to do both a little bit of scribble and concentric shapes, but with my scribble it's more controlled. Then I decided I want to take that white and I want to overlap it on top of that, just because it adds a little more depth to my concentric shape. And like I said, with my scribble, it's a little more controlled. It doesn't cover the entire box. And then I decided it would be nice to have a dark color scribble on top. So I have 2 layers of scribble, and you can still see my marker underneath. And I've decided to also trace over my other concentric shapes. So I just fill in my boxes with that. You can do all scribble in every box if you like, or all concentric shapes, or a mixture of the 2 if you like. So I did a mixture of the 2, both scribble and concentric shapes. Your choice. If you want it to be all concentric like Kandinsky, go for it. If you want it to be all scribbly like Stanley Whitney, go for it. Or if you want to mash the 2 together, also fine. So then I had a little extra time, so I just started playing around with outlining my boxes and adding some other details within my shapes. A few dark lines here and there, a curved line, an angular line, just to create a little more depth. To make it have more layers and give the viewer something more to look at. So that's what you see me doing here. Just a few finishing artistic touches to bring it home. And Now my hands are gross, so I'm going to use my paper towel and rub that pastel off one finger at a time, and it'll come off and be clean enough that I can touch my computer or anything else. But I don't want to touch anything until I clean the pastel off my fingers. And I actually think this cleans it better than soap and water, because you have to scrub more with the soap just to make it work, but it'll be fine. Baby wipes also work well. All right, next class, come with the same piece of art, your oil pastels also. We're gonna add a little bit more to this. See you then.